What is up, my friends? It is Monday night, and you are very welcome along to tonight's late night agenda, where we have lots to go through. Arne and Hugo Ekitike have been speaking ahead of the game against Galatasaray with the pre-Champions League press conference. We'll take you through some of the quotes on that. We'll tell you what I mean by tonight's stream title, because it isn't about the injury to Chiesa or not. That's not what I'm talking about in the title. More on that in a moment, but as I always do, ladies and gents, before we start the stream, I sit back and observe for a few minutes just to see how people are feeling, see what the chat's looking like. And I want to just call somebody out here for something. So, Joe O'Neill, you're a member with the channel, mate, and I appreciate that. But there's a very sweeping statement that you've made, and I very rarely bring comments up on screen that aren't a super chat, but I want to do this because I want to just talk through what you've said, so bear with me. Right, Joe, so as you can see, your post was, after our first loss, Slot is getting hammered. Such a shame, because if Liverpool win tomorrow and Saturday, he'll be your hero again. Did you even hear the phrase, support Liverpool even when we lose? Firstly, mate, and I'm trying to be respectful, don't you dare talk down to my community like that. That's first. And secondly, just because you, in your head, have thought that everybody is going in on Klopp or Slot for losing, that's on you, not on the rest of us. And also, that phrase that you've trotted out there about support Liverpool even when we lose is an age-old, bullshit, sloppy, happy-clappy nonsense comment. You're allowed to critique. Doesn't mean you don't support, but you're allowed to not be happy when we lose, Joe. Is that really such a shock to you? That maybe after we've lost, people go, well, that's not great, is it? We didn't play very well. But people like you, Joe, that think that they can talk down to others and are better than others are a bigger part of the problem than people like me or others who may have some fair, valid criticisms of a performance or a start of the season that isn't as it should be. So like I said, bro, don't speak down to my people like that. Get your attitude right or fuck off. It's as simple as that. And it will always be as simple as that. So let's talk about that tonight then. I'm going to set the tone early doors, folks, and say, do I believe, Arne Slot, that Chiesa has an injury? No, I don't. But that's my opinion. I'm not saying it has to be yours. Personally, I don't believe it. Same way I didn't believe he had a niggle when he wasn't brought over to the Hong Kong and Japan games when others who had injuries were brought over. But really, he was left there to try and find a new team. And miraculously, this knock will happen to be better for Saturday against Chelsea. So I don't believe it, but that's just my take on it. And I'm entitled to that, same way you're entitled to tell me that you do believe it. Many people that I've spoken to today aren't buying it, but that's okay. Because here's the thing. If Liverpool were putting out their squad, it is very easy to attach a little, this player isn't travelling because. But they didn't do that. And what I think, mate, again, just my opinion, is that Liverpool have seen the backlash in the comments, because if you look at the comments on the press conference, it was full of Federico Chiesa stuff. So whatever way people want to dress it up, it's going to take a lot more than this from Slot to make me believe that he doesn't not want to use Chiesa. I feel he doesn't want to use him. I think his actions since Chiesa's been here has shown he doesn't want to use him. And today, to me, felt like a reaction to a fan base that's kind of a little bit annoyed about it. That's my take on it, like I said, but each to their own. I just don't think, personally, that Chiesa's got a niggle or he's injured. That's just my take on it, though. And it's not too big a deal either way, because it's not going to change the fact that whether we win or not tomorrow is going to be important. So, for me, just don't buy that particular thing. But I've also taken a lot of other stuff from Arne's press conference today that I think doesn't really make sense. And I'll try my best to give you my perspective on it over the course of the next 90 minutes or so. David, how are you, bro? Said, evening, Craig, bro, and community. Seeing the press conference earlier on Chiesa, never travelled because of a little knock, but how true was that? Let's hope we have him back for Saturday. So, like I said, people are absolutely free to have a look at this and make up their own minds. Many people will take the manager at face value and think he has a knock. Absolutely cool. You won't be getting any stick from me about it. But I am on the other side of this one in that I'm not buying it. But look, like I said, no biggie. Either way, Chiesa isn't travelling over. So let me just rule out a couple of things for you. It isn't because of the squad size. It isn't because of numbers or anything like that. You can have 23 people involved in the match day, 11 players, 12 subs in the Champions League, and Liverpool have travelled with 21. So I don't think it's anything other than either the injury or the niggle or Slot not choosing him. Either way, Chiesa isn't there, and that we do know about. But what I'd like to kick off tonight with, if that's okay, everybody, is I want to have a chat around some of the things that Arne did say at this press conference today, and while I strongly disagree with them, and some of it plays into the conversations we had yesterday. Robert said, I'm worried Slot is turning Chiesa into the Joker. It's going to take a lot more for me, Robert, to feel that he trusts Chiesa than him saying he has a niggle. Because, like I said, actions over the last 18 months as manager kind of paint a different picture of where he thinks Chiesa fits in. I think we'll see on Saturday. You know, it'll be miraculous if the niggle suddenly disappears again by Saturday. But, like I said, I'm not buying it, but that's just my view on it. And ultimately, look, it doesn't matter, right? Whether I believe it or not doesn't matter, because Liverpool still have a job to do tomorrow and we need to get the result. What I actually take more anger from is some of the other stuff he said in the press conference. Blaine Williams said, gutted that Chiesa is not in the travelling squad. He's not injured. I hope he starts against Chelsea. Craig, thank you for always being a real one. Look, man, I do appreciate your support, of course I do, but I'm only just going to give you my honest opinion, as I always do. I don't think everyone has to agree with me, but I just, like I said, you've seen me say the phrase many times, managers are free to say what they want, but we don't have to believe it, right? Managers have to say what's best for the team, the squad, and the club. No problem with that whatsoever. But as fans, we're entitled to decide whether we believe that or not. And on this particular one, I would be in the naysayers camp. Corbin said, I'm confused why Slot has an issue with Chiesa. Some will say, mate, that he doesn't. But do you know what? I feel like that's a really good place to start tonight's stream. I'm going to ask you for your honest opinion, because I've given you mine. Now I want to know what you think, and we'll see what the results show. 1 second. Right. So, do you think Slot doesn't want Chiesa at the club? So, do you think he doesn't want Chiesa at the club? Straight one, yes or no, and we'll revisit. So, here's what I actually meant with tonight's stream title, by the way, when I said Slot needs to be honest. I wasn't actually even talking about Chiesa on it. I was talking about what he was saying about the way we play. That's the part that I'm actually frustrated about. So, Slot said this about defending. He said, for me, defending is only a small margin. One of our strengths was kept teams away from our goal last season, and that starts somewhere else, not with the defenders. We've conceded 4 goals from set pieces, so we've changed fullbacks, but we've changed a bit more. The goals we conceded, I will look back in detail, but the first thing that comes to my mind is that the new fullbacks is not that the new fullbacks are the problem. We need 11 players to work incredibly hard to stop chances, but you can work as hard as you want. Set pieces are a different game inside the game. We hardly conceded from set pieces last season, so we have to prove we have been unlucky with that, because they can happen, but we definitely have to have improvement, because I see a team who win Premier League games because of set pieces. So, do you remember yesterday on the stream I said to you guys that I think we are seeing a watered down version of the way Paris Saint-Germain play in the way that Liverpool are playing, and that our fullbacks aren't really committing to the attacking, penning teams in that we see with PSG. And that's what I mean by I don't believe and agree with Arne Slot. He said this, and this to me is, in my opinion, and again, just my opinion, but this to me is bullshit. He said, we don't play to have possession, we play to score goals and win games. As long as Liverpool have existed, they have more possession than other teams. Sometimes teams are happy to defend because they're very strong. Teams are managed so well and are so fit, it's getting harder and harder to play through. So we brought in good attackers who can help unlock those roadblocks, but it's never easy for a team. Not for 1 second am I going to believe that we don't keep the ball for the sake of keeping the ball and moving it and trying to find that perfect pass. Not for 1 second do I believe that. Because how many times have we all had the conversation, what are they doing? moving the ball around the back from side to side. Nobody showing, nobody going into spaces, just moving it side to side to side to side. For what? For what? Because, like I've said many times, if we aren't getting the defensive benefit of it, in that we're not conceding less goals, then what's the point of it? We used to be more direct. We used to try to win second balls. And if we do want to play the way Arne imagines we want to play, it is going to involve the full-backs being a lot more aggressive and us being a lot more on the front foot. Now, he's not wrong about what he speaks about when he says defending starts from the front. That's absolutely true. Go back all the way to the likes of Ian Rush back in the day, and Rushy was great from doing that. Defending from the front. Bobby Firmino, the same. So that's what we should be doing, in my opinion, more, and not letting teams out. I'm getting frustrated with the fullbacks not being as advanced as we want them to be for the way Arne keeps talking about Paris Saint-Germain playing. Because that's the dream here for him. It seems to be he wants us to become PSG 2.0. And that's cool. I like that style. I like the idea of doing it. But I think for some reason, right now, we're in a halfway house between the two. Between keeping possession and fearing losing it to being countered, and not committing to that full-on, in-your-face, 100 miles an hour, pen you in, force you to go long with clearances, win second balls, go again. Just my take on it. But I can't see how we can say we're not keeping the football for the sake of keeping the football, because we've all had this conversation. Every Liverpool fan I know is getting a little bit confused as to why we're just knocking the ball side to side, because if anything, it's not going to help unpick that low block he's talking about, or those roadblocks he's talking about. All it's going to do is give them more time to set themselves. He knows this. You know this. I know this. So I disagree with it. But I also want to make something really clear. It's okay to disagree with some stuff. It's okay to be annoyed by some stuff. It doesn't mean we love the manager less, rate him less, believe in him less. It just means there are certain things we don't agree with. That is absolutely fine. Just don't let it get toxic. You know, I keep saying this to people. In no walk of our lives do we agree with everybody on everything. It just does not happen. You know, you don't agree with your partner all the time. You don't agree with your mates all the time. You don't agree with your family all the time. But that's okay. But for some reason in football, if we dare disagree with something, we're haters, toxic, or we get that shite that Joe came out with at the start about learn to support us when we lose. Well, of course we're supporting them, dude. We're still here talking about them. But we're allowed to be confused, unhappy, or have our own criticisms of performances. If we're not allowed to do that, then what's the point? That's the way I see it. That's the way I see football. That's the way I see sport. That's the way I see being a fan. We have our views. We're allowed to share them. But ultimately, the manager's decisions are the ones that will be successful or not, that will lead to him being a success of the club more or not, and that's his decision to make. And I respect that it is, but I'm also allowed to disagree with it or see bullshit and call out bullshit. Jordan said, Chiesa said, we've been good at set pieces. Now, Chiesa said, we've been good at set pieces, now says they're important. Didn't he say otherwise not too long ago? I can't remember on the differences from a while ago about set pieces or not. But for a man that knows set pieces are important now in the Premier League, right? Why are we not utilising them like other teams then? Because he goes on about the way we conceded against Palace, and he goes on about watching the Manchester United and Brentford game and long throw-ins and set pieces. Well, then why are we throwing the ball backwards, Arne? Why wouldn't we have a throw-in 5 yards from the corner flag when the game's 1-1? Are we not putting people into the box and trying to use the height, trying to create chaos? So if we're focusing on that, then what the fuck is happening? Because I didn't see us trying to utilise set pieces like throw-ins. I seen us going backwards. And again, what's the point of that? So, to quote him, he said, win, lose or draw, if you want to compete for trophies and wear a Liverpool shirt, you have to give your all and play good football. We conceded so many chances versus Palace, so we can improve those things, and I will show them tonight to the players. But this is the part I found interesting. More and more, it becomes a set-piece game, and I know it's part of football, but I watched Brentford in the game against United, and it was 20 minutes, long throws, goal kick. This is the style you see more in the Premier League. There's a reason for me why it's done more than in other leagues. You can attack more, touch the goalkeeper, which is a bit different in Europe. In my day, there is no set piece coach, let alone meetings. Nowadays, there, as long as the tactical meeting, which shows the importance we give to set pieces. Again, though, he's saying we give importance to set pieces. We're focusing on them. But we're terrible at both ends. We're terrible attacking with set pieces, and we're absolutely diabolical defending from set pieces. So where is the time going? What are they doing to change it? And who's taking responsibility? Because zonal marking is a piss take. It is probably one of the most divisive topics in football. Some people think it's the gospel. Other people disagree with it. I'm firmly in the, it gives nobody responsibility. And you can talk about collective responsibility, fair enough. But I'm a big firm believer in, if you lose your man and he scores, then I'm turning around and I'm having a pop at you because it's your fault. So that's where I'm at with what he said today. But all of the things that I've said doesn't mean I don't like Arne. Of course I do. I'm really happy with him. I'm really happy with the team winning the league. I'm really happy with the signings we brought in. But I'm not a happy clapper fan who's just going to not say my bit and give you my honest view on it, because sometimes I think managers have a bit of double speak and they talk it at both sides of their mouth. Just my view. Right. Let's keep going. I think, have I done Jordan's one? I did. David said, I think Slot doesn't fancy Chiesa in the team. So it definitely does feel like he's have to work, and I'm trying to be kind here, David, in the way I say this. I definitely feel like Fede has had to work harder to get similar opportunities than others. I think that's the kindest way I can put it. And now that he's producing, he needs to be given more opportunities. Debunking said, hiya Craig, how many donuts can you stack on it? Honestly, dude, I mean, we're not talking six packs, you know, in every sense. You know, I mean, put it this way, I'd still be hungry. You know what I mean? I'd still be hungry, dude. David said, we're Liverpool, not PSG. We are. And I've got no issues with him highlighting PSG style of football, because it was an impactful, effective style of football that got praise from all of us in the way he went about it and the way that they went about playing against us. I think we all had the conversation to say, nobody's done that to us before. It took a long time before we'd seen a team be able to do that to us. So I understood the praise for PSG. But I expected, with the signings that we'd brought in and his praise of that system, for that to be the way that we looked to play. And I think right now we look far from the way PSG are playing, because we're in some weird halfway house where we're not committing the fullbacks. So this was just sent to me in fair play. I want to highlight Galatasaray fans to say fair play on this one. Galatasaray fans have made preparations to commemorate Diogo Jota ahead of the Liverpool match. And sincerely, I'm sure I speak for all Liverpool fans when I say that is a very lovely gesture and one that's very welcomed by all of us, and fair play to Galatasaray and their fans. David Wood said we pass too slowly. I agree, David. I think we very much do, mate. So I just struggle with something in particular. Arne keeps banging on about low blocks. He keeps talking about low blocks. Every time there's a press conference, or every time we come up against a Burnley, an Arsenal, or a team that sits, he bangs on about low blocks. Well, he must know that to beat a low block and to get past a low block, you've got to move the ball quicker, create overloads, and unpick the lock that he keeps talking about with players. Now, we brought in the players to do that, so why aren't we doing it? I don't know. But we're not. And we're still doing the same things. Struggling side to side slowly. Not going wide enough. Not using the full width of the pitch. And the last thing, in my humble opinion, you want to do as a football player when you're playing against a low block is let them reset. Let them get back into shape, which is what checking back inside does, or cutting back to our centre-backs does. It gives them a chance to get everybody back behind the ball, especially in transition. Fred said, "Hi Craig, I personally think this is the time everything will favour Chiesa and push him to prove his doubters wrong Arne first." So, I guess some people feel like that Chiesa isn't good enough. Some people like me feel like he just hasn't been given enough of an opportunity, but I guess in the long term we'll see. I don't understand what this is about. I don't know what you mean by this, mate, because nobody's even had a conversation about Salah yet. And, you know, to try to say in any way that Salah's pulling his weight this year is just wrong. I love him. You love him, I'm sure, no doubt as well. But to say that he's doing his bit this year is just wrong. Take away the penalty and talk to me about what he's really done to impact games. There hasn't been a lot. Certainly not enough to say he's anywhere near the level we've all enjoyed so much over the 8-9 years he's been at the club. So I get you want to defend him, but I didn't really see me certainly attacking him in the way that your post seems to suggest we're undermining him somehow. I would say if you polled every Liverpool fan on the planet and asked them, do you think Salah's playing good enough this year? The answer is more often than not going to be overwhelmingly no. That doesn't mean, again, that we don't appreciate him. It doesn't mean that we don't love him. It means that we think what we're seeing, he can do better. I can't get how people can't get that through their heads and think people are just hating. You're allowed to be critical. Like, I don't know if you're a parent, you were obviously a child, but you wouldn't just tell your own kid positives all the time, would you? You know? You wouldn't not criticise them if they did something wrong. You wouldn't just say, oh, well, that's okay, I love you anyway, so you get a pass. You get a pass on bad behaviour, or you get a pass on doing something wrong. No. You explain to them why, you talk to them, and you let them know how to do it better moving forward. So this hate shit that people spout when people just have a critique, it winds me up. And if you don't feel for Chiesa in this moment, I think we all have a heart of stone if we don't, because what I'm seeing is everything I want to see in a player. You know, a great temperament, not throwing his toys out of the pram, not going on social media bitching and moaning, putting the shift in, making the difference when he's given the chances, and that should be rewarded. Do you think the issue with Chiesa might annoy Edwards and Hughes? Where could his evaluation have been with more game time in the form he is? So, a manager has every right to choose who he wants. Like, I've no problem with that. Like, ultimately, Arne will succeed or fail by the decisions he makes and the performances he gets from the players. Same as any other coach. And I would always say the coach is the one who picks the team, and nobody should be forcing players down the coach's throat. I would always back a manager or a coach in that regard, because they want the type of players they want to play their system. But we've never heard him say he doesn't rate Chiesa. We've never heard him say that he doesn't want him there. So I'm confused. If he's a player who he's happy to keep and have in the squad, then why aren't we using him more? What does he have to do to get the chance? Because last year, the whole year, it was a fitness thing. He hadn't got much game time. He hadn't got his fitness up. Well, here we are now, 16 months later, and we're still barely seeing him getting into squads or be used, when we've seen others underperform massively and get away with it. And that's all we're talking about here, is people not pulling their weight at the levels we know they're capable of, they know they're capable of. And should we not be asking why? Should we not ask maybe we could go another way and change this a little bit? Give these people maybe a bit of a kick up the arse? Are these professional athletes maybe too soft a touch that they can't take constructive criticism? Or they couldn't understand that they're not performing and need some time on the bench? Is that where we're at? Are we that fucking soft? Joseph said Frimpong should run into half spaces like Hakimi. When we signed Jeremy Frimpong, Joseph, we all expected, like you said, a Hakimi-esque type of fullback, right? Bradley, slightly different, can still get forward, but maybe not as penetrative, as penetrative. Penetrative? Maybe not as direct, there's the word I'm looking for, as Frimpong. But again, in that, we're seeing a kind of halfway house of a player who can do it, but is not given the license to get as far forward and be as penetrative. Batu, thank you, sir. I will ask Connor to forward that on to me, bro. I don't have access to our emails, but I will certainly ask Connor to send that one on to me, and I appreciate the idea first and foremost, and I appreciate your kindness, my man. Thank you. Right, so we asked, do you think Slot does not want Chiesa at the club? If you haven't voted yet, please do, because we're going to let it go a bit longer, because the bigger sample size we can get on this, the better. Now, I feel like we started this stream very seriously, and it's a bit heated, but that's okay. Family get heated sometimes. So let's bring the tone down a little bit with our daily laugh at Manchester United, you know, because it wouldn't be a stream if we didn't have a little laugh at the old folks in Manchester. So, the league position at Manchester United that got manager sacked, David Moyes was sacked in 7th place. Louis van Gaal was sacked in 5th place. Jose Mourinho was sacked 6th place. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer was sacked in 7th place. Erik ten Hag sacked in 14th place. Ruben Amorim, 14th place, backed. But yet United have cast their net, according to the media, for other managers. But they're not looking to bring one in, mind you. They've just cast their net. Because you all know fishermen go out there to the sea on the trawlers and cast their nets out. Not to cast any fish, mind. They don't want to be catching fish. They just love the process of casting the net out. Just speculating. They don't need fish, don't want fish. Just love throwing the nets out. Yeah. That's definitely true. The new squad hasn't settled and may take a whole season. Slots rebuilding, and don't forget, Klopp took 3 seasons. So, again, nobody's forgetting anything. But the question I would ask you, being fair, is results have been cool. We're all very happy with the results, apart from the 1 loss. But with the new side that you're building, like you said, we need to see progression, and we need to see that it's starting to knit together, bit by bit, slowly. And if it isn't, well, then you have a couple of options. Do you regress back to the tried and tested players who were there last year, who did win you the league? So as an example, we could easily put out an 11 that looks something like Bradley, Canade, Van Dijk, Robertson, Gravenberch, McAllister, Szoboszlai, Salah, Gakpo, and of course we'd have to put in a new striker. So I would say 8 of that team that I've listed there are players who know the system, know the league, have been here, won it. So where's the wholesale change that's causing the stuttering start? I think, it's not that much. We're not talking about gelling a new goalkeeper, new centre-backs, a whole new midfield. Yes, we've brought in 2 new centre-forwards, but we've yet to see both of them on the pitch at the same time. So it's not like that's the excuse. And Ekitike, to his credit, has started very well. I just think I'd love the manager to explain to us why he thinks it's not getting to the levels that he'd want. Yeah, and what he thinks would change that direction. Because there's nobody here doubting that they're all far more intelligent and understand football far better than you or I. They're professional coaches. They know what they're doing. But sometimes us simpletons, we need it explained to us. And so far, I just don't see a progression that would make us feel like we're heading in the right direction. It's not just me. We talked about it on the podcast. We talked about it on streams. People have messaged in with it. You know, people are just wondering when it will start clicking. Because nobody doubts the quality of what's here. Some of the Verts narratives, by the way, have been absolutely ridiculous. Some of them Liverpool-based, some of them not Liverpool-based. Some of them pundits looking to get cheap shots in, and we've spoken about that as well on the stream many times. Shisha said, "Hey Craig, hope you're good, bro. I'm sorry, but our defence is a worrying matter." Mate, you're not going to get an argument from me on that one. Anybody who tells you it isn't a problem at the minute, dude, I think is lying to you. You know, there are certain elephants in the room that football clubs won't address in a press conference. Everybody inside that football club knows the Canada situation's a pain in the arse. They all knew. Same way they knew about Trent. But they're not going to tell you that, or me that, or the public that. And that's understandable. Totally get it. But like you said, I don't have to believe it when they don't address the problems or when they say everything's grand. Because I have 2 eyes and ears and I can see Canade's head gone on the pitch. Don't need anyone else to tell me. I can see it. Don't need him jumping on social media when he has 2 good games in a row, laughing at people and going, haha, y'all forgot. No, you forgot. You forgot whether you want to play for the club or not, Ibu. How about that? Little simple answer, bro. Do you want to be here or not? Not a hard question. One that would be very easily answered with a simple yes or no. But he's not. And again, I'm not hearing that this isn't a fucking problem. Because it is. Same way it was with Trent. I've already got a pain in my arse reading articles about Canada and Madrid. And they're not going to stop. They're going to go on and on and on and on. So we need to sort it. Billy said, if Slot wants to replicate what PSG have done, then what about the fast and techie wingers? Wouldn't Chiesa be perfect for over Gakpo and Salah? Look, again, it's the fullbacks to me that are the biggest, confusion as to why we'd bring in 2 really good, energetic, pacey, aggressive, attack-minded fullbacks and not let the handbrake off. That's the one thing that I'm confused about in all of this more than anything else. The manager has to talk about trying to work out the defensive issues, of course. He has to be positive, proactive. He can't throw his players under the bus publicly. I get all of that. But like I keep saying, too many people believe every word out of everyone's mouth at the press conference. Some of it is just PR guff. Sorry, I'm playing catch up. This one. David said, people forget Chiesa, best player at the Euros in 2020. So, can you imagine, David, just to say, if Chiesa played 6 league games in a row and did what Salah's doing? Let's just use that as an example. Take the penalty out and say, if Chiesa played 6 league games and was playing like Salah is playing, do you think that he'd still be out there on the pitch? No, he wouldn't. So the only conclusion that we can come to is that Salah's reputation is what's keeping him on the pitch. Not what the manager's seeing with his eyes, not what you're seeing as a fan. Reputation. And if reputation alone is the reason why you are constantly keeping others out of the team and you're not performing to the levels that you've set yourself, that we know you're capable of, that's a problem. And that has to be called out. Am I wrong? Do you think Gomez has a chance of being selected tomorrow? Ben, that's a really tough question, mate, for, probably an obvious reason. So there's 2 sides to that, right? There's the side that says, yes, Canada deserves to be dropped. And I'm 100% on that. But I guess to guess or strike the balancing act, what do you do? Do you keep Canada there? Or do you try Joe Gomez, who didn't look great against Southampton, but at least you can maybe say to yourself, well, Joe hasn't had rhythm. Joe hasn't had enough game time. So Do you put it down to that, or is it something else? Again, some of this is important, what you can see on the training ground as a coach, but we don't get to see that. So, in theory, look, I don't like the idea of Canade playing another game without any, or like, I don't like people not being held to account, is the long and short answer to this. And I don't like the tone it sets if you're rewarding people who are putting in stinkers constantly over others who don't get a chance. Red said, Craig, what's a minimum expectation this season? Well, I feel we had this conversation as a fan base, or certainly as a community on here, over the summer. And all of us said one big trophy is a minimum expectation. And I'm not meaning FA Cup, League Cup, one of the two biggies. Prem of the Champions League. That's it. And that's fair, because with the money spent and the players brought in, an expectation comes with that. And that's great. You know, I'm delighted. The expectation should be used to spur us on. We should be, you know, encouraged by that. Not hindered by it. Not worrying about living up to price tags. We should be going out there and going, fuck yeah. Look at the squad we've put together. Let's go out there and play like champions. Play with a swagger. And show that it's going to take one hell of a team to take this title away from us. That's the expectation. Now, whether that's lived up to or not, nobody can know for sure yet. Somebody made a really good example the other day to say, well, look, PSG had a very iffy start and then turned it all around. And they did. That's more than fair. And that could very well happen here as well. But, thankfully for us, we're having these conversations where we've been nearly perfect, results-wise. And that's very refreshing and relieving to say we're still trying to figure this out, but we've won 7 of the 8 games we've played. As a fan, I'm really happy about that. But we also had the conversation that it feels like we're getting away with it a little bit, and that we might not always have the same fortune or ability to win things late. So we need to start seeing the performances. Because also, think of the mental and physical toll it's taking to have to dig so deep to go late and win these games. It would be much easier for everybody if you could win them in the first 60, 65 and then start to rest these guys. Put the game out of people's reach and not have to go late into the game. Not have to use all that mental and physical energy to dig deep, to go to the well again and again and again. Because there's only so many times you can do it before the well starts to run dry. And we've seen that in previous seasons under Jurgen. That, you know, think about that last season in particular for Jurgen. Everybody so wanted to do well for him. You could see it in the players. You could see that they were doing everything. Putting in that extra yard, giving everything to try to send the boss off with a big season. And it kind of unravelled a bit for us because that intensity and that sheer doggedness caused some injuries as well. And the guys burnt out and then we kind of fell off. So one thing that Arne and Ruben Peters are really, 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 really good at is managing workloads. You know, we spoke about the relationship of Feyenoord. We spoke about the percentage of players available. So we need to try to figure out a way that we can reduce the workload on players by winning these games earlier. And I know it sounds so simple, but how many times have we said this about Manchester City and Pep Guardiola over the years? They go out there, they blitz a team, and he has Haaland on the bench by 65 minutes or De Bruyne on the bench by 70 minutes because the game's won and they can go into coasting mode and then start passing the ball around, keeping possession and just breaking teams' wills. That's what I'd like to see. Not Guardiola-esque style of football, but that winning the game, taking it away from the opponents and then resting people. Stevie Boy said, really believe Wirtz's struggles are on Slot, the system or style of play, I believe are causing him to not to perform. On these type of things, Stevie Boy, normally for me, I would say there's probably not one factor that's causing it. So, stylistically, tactically, could that be a contributing factor? Absolutely. Give you that, no problem. New league, new environment. There's something to that as well. But at the same time, he's played Champions League football. He's an international with Germany. So he's played the game at the highest level against tough competitors who play hard, move the ball quickly, and play at a high intensity. So then you kind of have to start thinking, okay, what do we do? And I said this the other day. I really, really do feel like there'd be no harm to put him on the bench for a while. Not to drop him, but to try to build his confidence by bringing him into a game when opposition teams are tiring a bit, and maybe he has that bit more time and space. Maybe it acclimatises him to English football a little bit quicker. And yeah, the headline might be Arne doesn't play £160 million player from the start, but if it helps him to settle, if it helps him to find that bit of confidence, if he creates a moment, assists, gets a goal, something will click. His confidence will slowly build. He'll get used to English football. And that's what I would do, rather than move him around constantly. He was brought in to be the 10. It was shouted high and far from the rooftops when we signed him. He was brought in to be the 10. Then make the most out of him and find a way to make him as big a pain in the arse for opposition teams as we can, or don't until we can figure out how to do that, and then give somebody else the run out for now. Lolly, 11 superstars don't make a team like brothers. So one thing, Lolly, that I would never say this team doesn't have is good camaraderie. You know, it really does feel and look like they're a good group who get on, who have each other's backs. And I'm not in that dressing room, so I don't really know about egos or not. Did anybody catch Luis Diaz's comments? And it could have been something, it could have been nothing. But he spoke about players playing not to score for themselves, playing for the team. And a couple of papers picked up on it and wondered, was it a dig at Liverpool? Was it a dig at the dressing room and some of the players? And these are the type of things that I don't think as fans we know the answer to, because we aren't in the dressing room. We know the media PR side of the players. We don't know them as individuals. We don't know what goes on behind those dressing room walls. Chiesa treatment is baffling. He's trying every minute he's out there. He shouldn't let him go if he was going to ignore him like this. Feel bad for him. So the manager said today that he has a knock, that he picked up and he wasn't able to finish the last session. Again, it's up to each person if they think that that's on the level or not. I don't. But like I said, each to their own on it. Overall, though, I agree with you. I don't know what more anybody can do as a player to convince the manager. Because when you get limited opportunities, it's even harder to start playing well. And Chiesa's done that this year. He's come into games, made a difference. Wherever he's been brought on, made a difference. Whether he set up the 2 goals for the win against Southampton, whether he scored a goal against Palace, he's doing things that deserve more game time. Right, we're nearly at 2,000 votes, so we have about 100 more to go. Question we asked was, do you think Slot does not want Chiesa at the club? Mac said, we just have to expect that this amount of new players with high expectations take a tiny bit to flow. It can take even the best players half a season. And I've no problem with that, Mac, none. But you can mitigate other things. So you can revert back to more of the players who do know what it's about, who do know each other, and maybe then you start to introduce the new players a bit more slowly. So we could easily, like I mentioned earlier, you could put out an 11 there that has 8, 9 players that were here and won the league, know the system, know the league. What really concerns me as a fan is the defending, or why we're conceding so many. And I've disagreed with a lot with Arne in this press conference today, but I wholeheartedly agree with him about the defending not being just a defensive thing. It is true, and especially with the way that we play. You have to use the forwards and the midfield to get in people's faces and to press. Absolutely 100% agree with him on that. You defend from the front. If it gets to you keeping the centre-backs, like he says many times, there's probably been 3-4 errors or 3-4 opportunities to stop that attack before it gets to that point. More than fair. But the set-piece thing is baffling. Like, I don't understand with players over 6 foot and as many as we have, how we're so bad at it and why we're not trying to utilise it more at the other end. Throw-ins. They won it with a long throw-in late. We had a similar position a few minutes earlier and threw back to the halfway line from near their corner flag. That's not trying to make the most of a set piece. That's going back to let's just keep the ball and move it. And again, he said it's not just for possession for the sake of it. Not many fans seem to think that. Most of us are trying to figure out what the fuck we're doing, moving the ball side to side constantly. Because there doesn't seem to be people making runs into space. There doesn't seem to be people finding pockets. There doesn't seem to be an ability to move the ball through midfield. More often than not, it ends up with a diagonal ball into the channel. Chiesa is injured, boys. Some of us just don't believe that, mate. And I'm one of them people that don't believe he's injured. Because let's go back to the summer, right? Let's go back to the summer. And I'll give you one post from James Pearce and one post from Fabrizio Romano. Federico Chiesa didn't go to Hong Kong and Japan with the team for the pre-season tour. Romano said that he was left at home so he could find a team and he wanted to focus on finding a new team for a move away because he wants more game time. James Pearce then said that he didn't go because he had a knock. But other players went on the tour with a knock. Other players went who weren't 100% fit. So like I said, sometimes you got to just ask yourself, does this pass the smell test? And for me, going off not just today, but history of Arne with Chiesa, it doesn't pass the smell test for me. I don't agree. Why would he lie? I've just told you why. Same way they did in the summer. They'd lie to protect the club. Managers lie all the time, mate. Everything all right in the dressing room there. Oh yeah, everyone's with me. All the faith in the world, says a manager who's losing games. Look at Russell Martin. Every time that man does a press conference, I find myself in stitches laughing. Talking about the great togetherness that they have up there. And nah, mate. Not at all. And why would he lie? Like I said, because they're there to protect the club and the dressing room. And that's cool. That's his job. I'd lie in his position. Of course I would. I wouldn't come out there and air my dirty laundry in public as a football team coach. So this, insane all the disrespect slot gets, hilarious. Fuck you. How about that for disrespect? How is critiquing somebody disrespect? Are you such a beta that you just give in on everything and agree on everything? Honestly, is that your life? You're not allowed to question anything. You're not allowed to disagree on any point. You just have to be a lapdog and just take whatever shit anyone deals with and just think, oh, well, that's great. That's you, is it? Because it's not me, bro. Never going to be me. And again, stick and genuine concern or critiquing are very different things. Have you heard get Slot out of my club? Have you heard Arne Slot should be fired? Have you heard Slot isn't good enough? No, you haven't. But you know that, dickhead. This one. David said, how do other players feel when other players are playing poorly and not getting a look in? You could only put yourself in the shoes of that player. So if it was me, I can tell you how I would feel, but of course I can't tell you how everybody else would feel. So to me, I would feel really angry if people were playing and staying on reputation and not on form. I'd feel really angry about it. Because what's the point? Football's a tough game to break into. And it's littered with people who break into first teams when they take an opportunity. So, let's go back to Trent. I remember having conversations about Trent thinking, oof, this young lad, do you reckon he'll ever be able to to push out Nathaniel Klein. Nathaniel Klein's a seasoned pro. Do you reckon this young lad Trent will be able to push his way into the team? But then he gets his chance. And he takes that chance. And it's the same with many, many other players over the years as well. And Chiesa's taken his chances, as minimal as they've been. And, so far, and there's more of the season ahead, but so far a lot of us feel he's not getting the respect that his work rate and his attitude deserve. Heck said, I love Slot. I just think we haven't been good enough this season and there's been some questionable decisions. If you ever can't say that as a fan, mate, we have a problem in fandom. Like I said, people are so quick to just call us all haters and say that, if you can't support us when we lose, then don't support us. None of this is about any of that shit. It's about striving for better and striving for excellence. Do you think Mohamed Salah and Virgil van Dijk got to the level they are by accepting mediocrity? Do you think that they come off the pitch and just go, well, that was okay, I'll be okay again next week? Of course they don't. These guys are savages. And I mean that in the most complimentary way. These guys are hardened athletes who have a ruthless streak and a self-determination and belief that most of us probably couldn't comprehend. So they should be held to account. And everybody's happy to get praised, right? Everyone. Like, I use Jordan Henderson as an example on this. Jordan Henderson was more than happy to take the plaudits, the newspaper articles, the magazine articles, the money that came with being an ally and a good guy, to standing up for the causes until he fucked off to Saudi and threw it all in the bin. And all of a sudden the things he professed to hold dear to his heart didn't really matter just as much. So, like I say, you don't have to be naive with everything. Matthew said, really appears to be when Chiesa comes in and does everything he can, score goals, man of the match performances, goals, assists, he doesn't seem good enough. I can't disagree, mate. So how about we take this in a different direction? So 65% of people do feel that Chiesa doesn't want Chiesa at the club, or Slot doesn't want Chiesa at the club. So that's nearly 2/3 of the people that took part in that poll felt that way. It's fair to say, if you extrapolated that across the whole fan base, there'd probably be a fair chunk of people who are unsure about what's going on with Fede. So let's switch it up, because I feel like this has come across very critical of Arne. And I would dare to say, if we ran a poll right now saying, do you love Arne? 97% of us would say yes, and I absolutely do. There's so many things I love about him. And I was one of the people who defended him when he was employed. I was one of the people who went to bat for him when the likes of Glenn Johnson and former players and others were saying that Arne Slot was just going to be a make-way. He's going to be fired. It's impossible to come in after Jurgen, and he's a sacrificial lamb. So for all the people that claim to hate, go back and watch those streams when myself and many of my community were like, nah, you're wrong. Arne's a winner. Arne's here to win. He's not here to be a sacrificial lamb, to be the fall guy after Klopp, because he had chances to go to other Premier League clubs, could have went to Leeds, could have went to Spurs, but he didn't. He waited, and he took this job. So, I've always believed in Arne, and still massively believe in Arne. But, like him, of his players, I'm demanding. I'm demanding of a Liverpool manager. I'm demanding of Liverpool players, because they set the level and the bar so high. So we can't say Mohamed Salah is world class and then not hold him to that standard. Does that not compute? Like, Mo's brilliant. Absolute all-time Premier League legend. Love him. Right up there with the very best. So to not then say after a few poor performances that he's not playing well, that would just be lies and disingenuous. So two things can be right at once. You can still love somebody, but have a reason why you think they can do better. Paul Hegarty says, thinking Wirtz would suit the team better in a 4-5-1 style. 4-3-3 is causing us problems in transition, especially when defending counter-attacks. I'm sure that, look, they wouldn't have spent the money that they did on Florian Wirtz without a clear idea. And one thing that stood out to me when that transfer happened was Florian Wirtz speaking about how detailed Arne was in exactly how he's going to use him, how he thinks he'll fit into the team. And it was, just my opinion, but that felt like that was almost the deciding factor of why Wirtz came to Liverpool over Bayern Munich. That Arne was so thoroughly prepared, so informative, so detailed, that he knew that Arne wanted him, that he was the guy. And, that speaks volumes to Arne. And you heard that over and over and over again, by the way, with the signings that we made. Any of them that sat down with Slot were blown away with the preparation, with the presentation put to them about how they'll be used in the team, how they'll be integrated, exactly how he sees them performing. I was blown away by that. And seemingly, Wirtz was as well. So with the system thing, it's tough to figure out. Do you change a whole system if you hadn't planned to because of a slower 6 to 8 week start for a player? I would say no. Go with it a different way, like the way I said earlier on, maybe about bringing them in later in games when maybe the pace has dropped a bit. Right, so two things. One, happy birthday, Georgie Mamadashvili. It's his birthday today, so happy birthday, Georgie, the first Georgian to play for Liverpool Football Club. Hope he's having a good day. The match officials for the game this weekend against Chelsea are Anthony Taylor. Chelsea fans are going to love that. Anthony Taylor's the ref. Because however we feel about a load of refs, if I'm not mistaken, I don't believe Chelsea fans are overly fond of Anthony Taylor. Assistant, Gary Bestwick and Adam Nunn. Fourth official, Farai Halam. VAR, Craig Pawson. And assistant VAR, Adrian Holmes. So they will be the officials for the weekend. I know that there's a lot of FC 25 players out there. And I read an article today that you may not be aware of, but it said, video game giant EA announced Monday that it will be acquired by a consortium led by Saudi Arabia's Public Investment Fund for €55 billion. In what EA said would be the largest all-cash private equity buyout in history. So the Saudi PIF are spearheading, and there are other investment firms involved in this as well, a €55 billion buyout of EA. Wow. I never thought a gaming company would ever be valued at a level at that. Now, I will be the first to tell you, I'm very naive with the gaming world because, I'm not really a gamer. But when I seen that number today, I just thought, holy shit, 55 billion. Wow. Maybe we should close down Anfield Agenda and start opening up a gaming company or something, because that's some serious wedge. 55 million. Silver Lake, PIF and Jared Kushner now owns EA. I did see that Jared Kushner was involved somewhere in it when I flicked through the article, but like I said, I'm not a gamer. Just the headline stood out to me at the sheer amount that was on the table there. 55 billion. That is insanity. But another way to look at this is they're going to want a return on that 55 billion. And who do you think is going to pay for that? So if you're a gamer, be expecting to put your hand in your pocket more, because they're going to want to get a return on that 55 billion. So keep an eye on the prices and the in-game purchases and stuff like that, because, yeah, that's a lot of money. Sorry, where was I at? This one. Peter said Klopp with this team and his energy would be fire. Look, they're very different people, Arne and Jurgen. Arne's far more composed most of the time than Jurgen. Both great coaches. And over time, I've no doubt that Arne will turn this team into all beaters. I do. Like, I've every belief in him. There are certain things that wind me up, but that will be the same with anyone. There were certain things about Klopp that wound me up. But Arne as a coach, I have nothing but belief in. But, yeah, I think sometimes all managers play favourites, as an example. Jamrock, how are you, sir? Chiesa has 4 goals and assists in 153 minutes total. A goal and assist per 38 minutes. Not too shabby, right? Not too shabby for a man that had limited opportunities. So, I want to address something that's a serious matter, and I want to give a warning before I talk about this. We're going to talk about a sensitive subject for a moment, and if there are parents with children or younger viewers or people who are sensitive that might find this disturbing, I just want to let you know now that you may want to turn off for a moment or two, because this is a sad and serious subject. I was reading a piece today, and unfortunately, there was a coroner's court hearing today about Matt Beard, the former Liverpool and Chelsea women's coach, who sadly passed away. And it turns out that he died after he hung himself at his home and committed suicide. And I bring this up for the sole reason of asking people to speak up if you're hurting. I've known far too many people, mostly in my experience on this planet, young men, who've taken their own lives. And as men, at times, we're stubborn. Don't want to go to the doctor. I'll be all right. We're all like that at times. But please, if you're suffering with your mental health, speak up. Don't. There is always another avenue. There's always a way to turn things around. And with the way the world is now, it's so 100 miles an hour. It's so, everything is scrutinized. You can feel lost. You can feel like you don't belong. You can feel lonely. I felt it. I've spoken about it many times. And I'm here with 352,000 subscribers. But there's been times in my life where I felt isolated and lonely. So to anybody out there, if we can learn anything from these tragic passings and the pain that these Matt and others have felt, and I spoke about my own mother, took her own life. She died of an overdose of painkillers. Please do speak up, because there's always somebody to listen to. There's always an opportunity to improve your situation. So don't give up, but do speak up. Don't be afraid. No one's going to judge you. We're all in need of help. You would not think twice if you had tonsillitis of going to the doctor. If you had a broken arm, you wouldn't think twice about going to A&E to get the fracture dealt with. Please speak up. Your mental health's important. You're important to us. And most importantly, you're loved. Remember that. You're loved. Somebody or many people love you. Don't ever forget that. Even in the darkest moments where we all doubt ourselves and we feel like there isn't hope, there's always hope. And you are loved, and you are a good person, and you are beautiful, and you are unique. Never, ever forget that. So I apologise for bringing that subject up. It's a difficult one, but I bring it up because we spoke about it the other day when it was unconfirmed, and somebody said it, and it hadn't been confirmed, And I said, look, let's not talk about things until we know the facts. Today, the facts unfortunately came out, and I just wanted to bring it up because, you know, Matt was a hugely successful person. He won the Women's Super League. You know, so it doesn't matter. Your mental health doesn't give a damn if you're a millionaire, if you're the most popular person in the world. If your mental health is hurting, you can feel the loneliest person in the world in a room with 10,000 people in it. But you are loved. Never ever forget that. Never. If you take one thing from me, fuck all the ranting and all of this, you're loved. You are loved. I love you. Your community loves you. Your friends love you. And even if there's something on your mind that you think is unforgivable, somebody loves you. Remember that. Right. Let's have a look at the next 5 games for Liverpool and for Arsenal, because I was speaking about this the other day, and they have I'm not going to say they've handy fixtures, because look, the league is the league, you play everyone twice, but this is why I think it's so important that we need to beat Chelsea on Saturday, because we have Chelsea coming up, we've got Manchester United then after the international break, we've got Brentford away, Villa at home, and Man City away. So there's some tricky fixtures in there for us, and potentially some points to be dropped. Look at Arsenal's game. They've got West Ham at home, Fulham away, they're at home to Palace, Burnley away, and Sunderland away. Not saying they're easy fixtures, but you wouldn't be looking at it thinking that Arsenal are going to drop a lot of points there. So we went into the last international break top of the league. I think we all want to go into the next one top of the league as well. And I think we may be getting Chelsea at the right time. Maybe. Because things don't seem right at Stamford Bridge at the minute. I actually couldn't believe this, but I was watching last night and listening to some journalists on the TV. And apparently, Maresca's under pressure already. You know, delivered 2 trophies last year, but he's already under pressure because of the start of the league. So I feel like there's an opportunity for us to go there. And I don't think we've won there in, 5 years maybe. And get a result. And get things back on track in the league. So for me, tomorrow is it's important, but it's not the be all and end all. Saturday for me is the big one. You know what? Take a draw tomorrow, not bat an eyelid if it meant we could go and win on Saturday. Sonder said our OOP shape is horrid. So open and in mid-block with outright pressure. Chiesa versus Chelsea, I hope. He banged versus Newcastle, Cup, Bournemouth and Crystal Palace. I can't disagree on either point. I think we look very vulnerable. And I keep making the points on there that if we are moving the ball side to side to make sure we don't turn it over, I don't think we're seeing the defensive benefit of that in the goals we're conceding anyway. So I would say it just feels to me like we're playing with the handbrake on a bit and we're almost overthinking it. And we're not committing enough to the style of attack. And I hope Arne makes that little tweak and does let the handbrake off on the fullbacks a little bit more, has a bit more width and utilises that width. Shane Lowry is a legend. Absolute Ryder Cup magic. Oh, I was watching it last night, Shane, and I love that celebration from Shane Lowry. I love it. And I loved how much it meant to him as well in the interview. Not that it didn't mean a lot to all of those players, of course. But yeah, it was a lovely moment for him to be the one that got the half point that meant that Europe at that point retained the Ryder Cup. Now, of course, they went on to win 15-13, and credit to the Americans for a strong fight back yesterday. But what we seen in New York from some of those fans wasn't fandom. It was, what's the word I'm looking for? I want to choose my words carefully here because I'm a vocal fan, but some of the shit that was getting thrown around at those European players during that Ryder Cup was obnoxious. It wasn't fandom. It wasn't trying to get in their heads. They were talking about insulting families, sexual slurs. Not right. not sporting, not belonging, and very unlike American golf. I've watched loads of American golf events, and fans are raucous in a good way, supportive of your team, but being abusive to some of those players, it's not a great look for anything, for a great event like that as well. It's just unfortunate, but then there's the shithouse in me that loves that the European team got through it, stood their ground and won and did their talking on the course. I love that as well. So well done. And I'm looking forward, even though I don't like golf, it's the only event I do try to tune in to watch because I love the camaraderie of it. I love how much it means to both camps, to both sets of fans, to everybody. It's great. And I can't wait for the next one in Ireland. David said, don't live in silence, talk to someone. Exactly. I often think, I still to this day ask myself, could I have stopped my mum or dad? Could I have changed my dad's patterns, that he didn't drink himself to death? Could I have found a way to take away the pain my mother was feeling internally, psychologically and physically? And my dad was really old school in that he wouldn't speak up. He wouldn't go to see somebody. He wouldn't talk to somebody. And I love my dad dearly. In fact, I idolise him. But I'm stronger than him. And I'm not afraid to say that. He gave up. I didn't give up on my kids. I didn't give up on my wife. And I won't give up. And nor should you. So it's okay to hurt. But it's not okay to give up. Like I said, you're loved. You're important to people. And you're a good human being. There's always another day. There's always a way back. Troopers X1 said, nothing wrong with criticising players in our club, but it should apply to all players, not just one player. So I feel like you're trying to say something there without saying something, and I don't know, what it is. If you're talking about Mo as an example, well, I've been critical of Kanade, I've been critical of Mo, I've been critical of Gakpo, I've been critical of Kirkes at times. I've been critical of McAllister. So like I said, without knowing who you're speaking about, mate, I can't really give you a proper answer. But you're right. By the way, I don't disagree with you. You are right. So yeah, no disrespect meant. I don't really I don't know how to answer because I don't know what in particular you're talking about. But you aren't wrong. It should apply to everyone. That's fair. Or at least everyone that's underperforming anyway. Craig, you don't have 352,000 subscribers, mate. You have 352,000 friends, and we all love each other. We're AA, and this does mean more. Thank you, Cal. Appreciate you. And look, I certainly look at it like friends as well, mate. Like you said, I love being in here. Highlight of my day, apart from dinner time, because, love me grub. But, yeah, we are friends in here, man, and I appreciate all of you and the support you've given me over the years. There's a video up on our channel called Thank You and Goodbye. That it was just me breaking down, basically. I was in a dark place and I was giving it all up. I was never going to do anything to hurt myself, but I was giving this up. The trolling had gotten to me. My spirit was broken, and I recorded the video. And then I eventually got back to myself and started to feel better and started to continue to do stuff. But I never took down the video. And people kept saying to me, take that down, no. Because it was real and it was important to me that people can see that, the channel might grow, the success might come bit by bit. But it doesn't mean there hasn't been tough roads. It doesn't mean there hasn't been downs. That doesn't mean there hasn't been times where I've been struggling with the abuse I've received. But we're here. And I'm here because of you. And by here, I don't mean on this planet, because I'm never doing that. But I mean, I'm here still making content because of you. And because of the good people you guys are. So like I said, sometimes I need reminding. Even with 352,000 people, sometimes I question myself as a father, a husband, a man, a friend. But we all must be doing something right if we're still here and we're having fun and we're chatting to each other and we're interacting and we're watching the Reds, and it's good. It's needed. Human connection's important, and I certainly am somebody who doesn't go out much. I'm not the most social person in the world, but this is important to me, and I love it, and I love you all dearly. Chris Davies said, who would you start up front for the next 2 games? I personally start Ekitike tomorrow and Isak against Chelsea. Yeah, I think that's about right. For a few reasons. One, Ekitike is fresh because obviously he didn't play because he was suspended. And I would think again, give 30, maybe 25-30 to Isak and have him maybe ready then for the Chelsea game. Be interested to see if we can get both of them in the team against Chelsea. Selfishly, I'd love a way to see both of them in the team because I feel like Ekitike has done too well to be benched. He's hit the ground running, and I like what he gives to us. I like his tenacity as well. So I think if we can get these guys to understand each other a bit more and the movements, the intricacies, how they want to receive the ball, when they want to receive the ball, I think it'll be huge. I think it'll be we'll be unstoppable. And I mean that sincerely. Like, if we hit our stride, no one's living with us. Nobody. We will, by far and away, win the league and anything else if it goes to plan and it goes right. When's the next podcast episode out? Wednesday. We're recording it Wednesday. Obviously, we play tomorrow, and it's a late one, so there's no point in recording it after that because, everyone has work and stuff. Well, not me, this is my work, but, Steve has a job at Sale Sharks. Chris works with the World Snooker Tour as a press officer. So, be out on the Wednesday. Adam. And by the way, Chris Davies, thank you, Chris, for your 16 months with us as well, mate, and your support. Thank you. Adam said, I hope we play the same way we did the first half against Everton and Atleti, fast and on the front foot. Yeah, that first half an hour against Atleti was my favourite half hour we've played so far this season as well. I thought we were brilliant. Thought we started well against Everton as well, but particularly against Atleti, I thought that was the turning point. I really did feel like we were going to push on. Right, I want to run through some news and notes for you, because we've gone in and out of topics tonight. So let me just quickly run through some of the day's notes. So there's been a little bit of a shift in the potential or the percentage of probability of being Premier League champions. So after this weekend and after game week 6, Arsenal have gone from having a 33% chance to win the Prem to 44%. Going past Liverpool, who've gone from having a 47% chance to a 35% chance. But of course, that will shift over and over again as the season goes on. Wayne Rooney has been speaking about Ekitike and Isak, and he said, Ekitike 1,000,000% is in competition with Isak. You've got a real competition between two forwards who are slightly different. Who wants it more? Who's going to score? Who's going to create? Right now, I would put Ekitike in there. And I love that we have that competition between the two forwards. I love competition in squads. I think it's healthy. Fabrizio Romano has said Liverpool maintain their absolute confidence in Florian Wirtz, and Arne Slot is talking directly to him on a daily basis to give him as much support as possible. They're convinced it's just a matter of time before we see the real Florian Wirtz. Also from Spain now with Defensa Central, they said Real Madrid have more or less agreed deals to sign Ibrahima Konate from Liverpool on a free transfer and Nico Paz from Como. Both deals are subject to approval from Xabi Alonso, who continues to assess his squad. So here's my problem with these articles, same I had with Trent. If this is bullshit, can Konate please come out and say it is? Because again, let me read it out to you. Madrid have more or less agreed deals to sign Konate and Nico Paz. Nico Paz is a release clause, but if they've more or less agreed with Canade. Well, who have they been speaking to? What has been said? And has this been communicated to Liverpool? So like I keep saying, there's a lot people say without saying anything. And I've yet to hear Ibrahim Canade say, I want to stay at Liverpool. But these articles could very easily be rubbished, and he could come out and go, those reports coming out of Spain are bullshit. I've not spoken to anyone. So let's see if he does. This coming from, I think it's Riyadh, said, Al Ittihad have set their sights on appointing Jurgen Klopp. He is the Saudi club's priority to succeed Laurent Blanc, who has just been sacked. So what do we think? You think there's a way to get Kloppo to Saudi? Also, I won't be able to promote this as I should because I'm going to be away for 2 weeks. And usually in the 2 weeks building up to a show, I'm promoting it at its most. But there are, I think, about 40 tickets left to our live show, our last ever live show. So if you want to come and see us, we're going to be in Liverpool, the Hot Water Comedy Club, Sunday, 19th of October. It's an all-ages event. I'm going to be racing from Anfield straight to the venue after the game. All the money that we take in from our side, ticket sale money, we're going to be donating to the GoFundMe for Joe's wheelchair basketball chair. But it is the last show we're doing. So if you can make it and you want to come and see us in Liverpool, tickets are priced at just £15. And like we said, all that money we are donating to the GoFundMe. Alex Crook of Talk Sport has said, Manchester United are casting their net now to see what managers are available. Like was mentioned to you guys earlier on. They have full faith in Ruben Amorim, but they're still out there looking. How come it's the last live show ever? Stage fright, mate. Stage fright. I really, really struggle to do them, and you know it's a real conflicting problem for me because in one sense I love meeting everyone after them, and I love, you know, thanking people for coming and for being part of our community. But in the weeks up to it, I'm a basket case, and they play in my mind a lot. And it's just me. It's just a me thing. It's not anybody else. It's just a me stage fright. Hasn't gone away, no matter how many I've done. Right. So, Crystal Palace have the longest unbeaten run in Europe's top 5 leagues. Elche, my boys, over in La Liga, are 7 games unbeaten. That's the club myself and Lee Gunnar went to the game last year and we were over in Spain. Dortmund have a 7-game unbeaten run. Bayern Munich, 8 games. Barcelona, 9 games. But Crystal Palace, double Barca there, with 18 games unbeaten. That's incredible. Jadon Danns may have a hamstring injury. Liverpool have said Liverpool are assessing a suspected hamstring injury sustained by Jadon Danns at the weekend. The young man just can't catch a break. He had the back problems last season and a little hamstring strain now. So hopefully it's nothing too serious and he can be back playing soon because, you know, we all know what an exciting talent Jadon is and hope to see more of him. So, confirmation of Liverpool's travelling squad. It is Alisson, Gomez, Endo, Van Dijk, Canade, Kirkes, Wirtz, Szoboszlai, Isak, McAllister, Salah, Bradley, Jones, Gakpo, Ekitike, Mamardashvili, Robertson, Woodman, Frimpong, Gravenberch, and Gamoa. That is the travelling squad over. I think I've gone through. Here's Ekitike saying what Arne Slot wants from him. Honestly, the coach didn't talk a lot about my way to play or where I need to play. He gave me freedom in terms of being able to link up or go behind. I can do a lot of things. He just wants me to bring my football to the team. These quotes obviously coming from the pre-Galatasaray press conference. Speaking about settling into the club and on the competition with Isak, this is what Hugo had to say. I think I've settled the way. I have a good adaptation with the boys, the staff. Everybody has helped me adapt to a new environment. Everything is going well, so I keep going. How it works with Isak? Good question. We play at such a big club, they cannot have only one striker, so it's good he is here. I still have a lot of things to improve and learn. that's for the coach to decide who plays. It's not up to me. I played with 2 strikers before and 1 striker, so we can do a lot. I can do a lot of things. We can play together. I can. Then, on choosing Liverpool and why he did, this is what Hugo Ekitike had to say. Fuck the Geordies. No, I'm joking. I'm joking. He didn't say that. He said, it's the best choice. Champions, great history, and what I was looking for. It was a good choice for me. It's just the best option, and I wanted to come. On shooting more at Liverpool than he did at Frankfurt. Apparently, he has been shooting more at Liverpool. This is what he said. Last season, in the first part, I was starting in the Frankfurt 11 a lot, and I didn't shoot many times during games because I was more of a playmaker. I would say I need to be more dangerous. That's what I'm trying to be now, more than I have been to the defence, and I shoot more. I don't have anything to say about the technique. I just try to be dangerous. On starting at Liverpool, he said, to say I knew I'd perform like this, no, but it is what I expected. I worked for that, so I'm happy that it works. I just want to keep going and to do more for this team. Playing in the Champions League more now. Obviously, when I played PSG, I was young. Watching more, so now is my time to be somebody who comes into the team to help and reach success in the Champions League. I'm very grateful for that, and I will give 100%. Arne, speaking about Chiesa, said he got a little niggle, I think is the word, in the last game against Palace. He tried it, but he couldn't end the session, so we decided not to take him because in a few days it's Chelsea. On defending, Arne said, for me, defending is only a small margin. One of our strengths was kept teams away from our goal last season, and that starts somewhere else, not defenders. We've conceded 4 goals from set pieces, so we've changed fullbacks, but we've changed a bit more. The goals we conceded, I will look back in detail, but the first thing that comes to my mind is not that the new fullbacks are the problem. We need 11 players to work incredibly hard to stop chances, but you can work as hard as you want. Set pieces are a different game inside the game. We hardly conceded from set pieces last season, so we have to prove we've been unlucky with that because that can happen, but we definitely have to improve because I can see teams who win Premier League games because of set pieces. On the style and possession, he said, we don't play to have possession, we play to score goals and win games. As long as Liverpool have existed, they've more possession than other teams. Sometimes teams are happy to defend because they're very strong. Teams are managed so well and are so fit, it's getting harder and harder to play through. So we brought in good attackers who can help unlock those roadblocks, but it's never easy for any team. And this is very interesting actually from James Pearce. He said that Victor Osimhen was never a target for Liverpool this summer, according to Arne Slot. And I said that to you guys in the summer, that I didn't believe for 1 second that we were after Victor Osimhen, despite some of the links. He said, win, lose or draw, if you want to compete for trophies and wear a Liverpool shirt, you have to give your all and play with good football. We conceded too many chances against Palace, so we can improve, and those things I will show them tonight to the players. On set pieces, he said, more and more it becomes a set piece game, and I know it's part of football, but I watched Brentford and United game and it was 20 minutes long worth of throws, goal kicks. This is the style you see more in the Premier League. There's a reason for me why it's done more than other leagues. You can attack more, touch the goalkeeper, which is a bit different in Europe. In my day, there was no set piece coach, let alone meetings. Nowadays, there is long as a tactical meeting, which shows you the importance we have. So that is pretty much the summary of everything that was spoken about with Arne and Hugo at the presser. Apologies, Craig. Didn't mean it towards you. Just what I've been seeing in comment section on other videos regarding Liverpool's performance. All good, mate. All good. I didn't think you were having a pop at me at all, dude. I was just wondering, was there a particular player that you wanted to have the conversation around? Just so I could be more precise with my reply. But all good, my man. And appreciate you coming back in. David said, I'm a paramedic. I'm in this wonderful community. If you need to talk, I'm here for any one of you. Very difficult job, my man. You've certainly got my respect. It's it's an incredibly tough job, man. And thankfully there are people like you out there in the world and help those in need when they need it, mate. So much love to you and much respect as always. Right, ladies and gents, where are we at? Let's make sure I've gone through all of my notes, which I believe I have. Coolio. So, a couple of things. We've still got about 15 minutes left on tonight's stream, but tomorrow we'll be live from 6:45 for the watch along, so make sure you join us for that. We'll have our match reaction, player ratings video, and everything we usually have on a match day. Do we have a set piece coach? Yes, we do. Somebody mentioned his name yesterday. For the life of me, I can't remember who it is, but I believe that they've just changed role from something else into our set piece coach, but forgive me, I can't remember the gentleman's name. What are we expecting tomorrow night, by the way? Let's see how we're feeling about it. Aaron Briggs, yeah, that's the one, thank you. Yeah, that's the guy's name. Yeah, so what are we expecting tomorrow from the game against Galatasaray? Because I'm expecting a win. I know it's difficult to go over to Turkey and get a win. Very good support over there, like I've said many times, but I'm expecting a win. But, to me, Saturday's more important. The Chelsea game's more important because we've a bit more wiggle room in the Champions League because, you know, we're getting through to the knockout stages one way or the other. But the wiggle room in the Premier League is shrinking, and I don't want us to be giving Arsenal any encouragement. Craig O'Clock Dan said, we don't really use niggle in the US. Said it the other day, and my wife, and it shocked my wife. I had to prove it's a word, and I have a PhD in English. That's mad. There's sometimes the colloquial differences or the national differences, like fanny. That's a word that means something very different on this side of the water than it does, of course, on your side of the pond, where it means bum, backside, arse. Whereas over here, you know, it's the reverse. We're talking the other side. So yeah, I get it. Knock would be I would use the word knock, or I would say has a niggling injury or niggling. I wouldn't use the word niggle really on its own. I would add it to the sentence and say niggling. David, good night, my man. You're on call. Well, keep doing good work, my man. Proud of you and thank you. Look forward to seeing you at the show. Aidan said, love from Cali. Love the community you've built. Thank you, my man. Thank you. Cali, my one regret, now that I can't really go to America, is that I never got to Cali. You know, I've been to Florida 6 times, but I never got over to that side of America, and I had planned to go to Vegas and over there, but unfortunately, you know, I don't want to get into that rant again, but yeah, unfortunately, I can't, so, but thank you. Appreciate you, my man. Gaza said, hello, Craig and chat. I have the opportunity to be able to buy the away and third kit. Who should I get in the back? I've already got Wirtz on the back of the home shirt. For me, I'd go Maka and probably Virgil. That'd be probably the two for me. Or, you know, Salah's always a great shout as well. Isak, I'm sure, is super popular at the minute. Yeah, I'd probably either go Salah, Maka, or Virgil. It's your holiday, but will you stream? No, I won't. I'm recording a series of videos. I've got about 5 or 6 of them recorded already that I'm going to be putting out. The one I recorded today was... I'm trying to title it still, but the gist of it is I'm 44 years of age. I've watched football for 37 years and I don't understand the handball rule. And I talk about why the handball rule is a joke. And how it's, you know, I get into the handball stuff. I've also recorded a video on my evolving opinions on FSG. I've talked about the FA Cup and whether it should have a Champions League place attached to it. I am doing a team of 11 players from the top 11 teams in the Premier League when I recorded the video, with no more than one player from each team, and they all have to play in their natural positions. So I've recorded that. I'm recording a video of my top 5 online opposition fan bases to interact with and why. There's the one I talked to you guys about the other day where I'm considering doing one about a second-tiered World Cup and why I think it could be a good shout for countries like mine, and a few other bits and pieces. We're going to do an unpopular opinions one as well. Connor's getting those opinions as we speak. So yeah, I won't be live, but I think Connor's going to do the watch along of the Manchester United game because I'll be at it. So I think Connor's doing that. They're going to record a podcast episode or two. And I think Connor will do a few videos as well while I'm away. So, but I won't be. I'll be killed by the missus if I try to do that. If I try to work while I'm away. So the only thing I'll get away with is if, heaven forbid, somebody picked up an injury or something, I'd be allowed to. I'll be allowed to do a reaction video to that. Do you know the handball rule in particular? There's one thing. You know, we all know about the Arsenal incident against Newcastle. We kind of touched on that a bit yesterday. But the one for Fulham against Aston Villa, where Matty Cash had the ball, he had his body turned and his arm was behind him like this, and he handles it and blocks the shot. For the love of God, I don't understand how that's not a penalty. Because, you know, if you're stopping the shot from going to goal with your arm, intentional or not, we're basically allowing defenders to be goalkeepers at that point. And if it was the other way round, if it accidentally hit a forward's arm and dropped to a centre forward who scored it, well, that goal's getting ruled out. I have so many things that wind me up about the handball rule that I felt like I had to make a video about it and get it off my chest. Because it is a joke at this point. How can one law, or any football law, be interpreted differently in different leagues? And who the hell are the PGMOL to come out every season and go, well, we're going to be refereeing this rule this way this year, and we're going to be refereeing this rule that way this year. There should be one set of criteria and rules that are applied the same way across football, or we've a double standards game, and we're still at the whim of a referee. Because that Gabriel or Saliba handball against Newcastle was a fucking handball. I don't care if it accidentally came up off his shin. His arm was miles away from his side and it stopped Newcastle's attack. It stopped Newcastle from getting a cross in. Don't know if it would have scored or not, but it stopped them. And the same with Cash's handball. That stopped the strike on goal for Fulham that was headed on the target. So whether he meant to do it or not, I don't care. Surely to God that has to be punished in some way. Or what's the point? Just put gloves on centre-backs and tell them they're goalkeepers, because it's crazy to me. And how many times have you heard that would be a penalty in the Champions League? Or you've seen penalties given in the Champions League or at the Euros or at the World Cup that is not like, it wouldn't even be looked at probably in the Premier League, but it's given. So they need to sort that out. Kyle said, what are your views on our current performances? I'm worried. A little bit concerned, but happy to have the concerns with, you know, having won 7 games from 8 in all competitions. But, you know, I'd be a liar if I said to you, I'm still waiting for us to put in that one good performance that shows we're turning a corner. I've no doubt in the ability of the players or the coaches. I'm happy with the players we brought in, but we're not there just yet, but we will get there. Gaza said, what's the Arsenal game? There was a few game-changing decisions not being given for both teams. More so Newcastle, but both teams were affected by VAR, just not going up to par. Yep. And again, I'm not trying to say Arsenal were helped yesterday, but I promise you, if that situation was reversed and it was a Newcastle player that did the same thing, I'd be calling for a penalty again. Or if it was a Newcastle or Arsenal player who had a shot and Matty Cash's arm went behind, I'd be saying the same thing. It just seems unfathomable to me that you can have a law that's interpreted different ways when it's written the same. How can a law for a handball be different for a defender and an attacker, and it's not written into the rules of the game? How? That is just in a game, in a sport that critics of it would say is a low-scoring sport, why are we as a football family obsessed with ruling out shit and keeping the scores lower? Because it feels like all the rules that they're making are to try to keep scores lower or rule out more goals somehow. Why isn't VAR used on the byline? Well, you wouldn't even need VAR, Aaron. Because you would have goal line technology. So, without, understanding the physics of it all, there would be a chip in the ball and it can tell, same way in the goal line, whether it's over the byline or not. And that, in my opinion, mate, should be brought in all the way around the pitch. The whole outside of the pitch, all the way around it, should have a GPS or whatever they put in the ball to say when it's in or out and not have to rely on the eye test. Because we know the technology exists, we know it's pretty damn good, and we know that players don't ever complain. When the ref looks at their watch and they say goal or no goal, nobody complains because they know it's pretty foolproof. Not 100% foolproof, but pretty foolproof. Right, ladies and gents, I'm going to say goodnight, and I will catch you guys tomorrow, 6:45, for hopefully another win in the Champions League. But either way, it's always fun to watch the Reds, and hopefully we see Ekitike bag a few more. Salah gets back to his best. But yeah, either way, have a good one. Appreciated you tonight. And like I said about mental health, somebody loves you. You are loved. You're a good person. Speak up if you need to. Much love. We'll talk soon.